Hey guys, welcome back to the latest episode of Training Ground Talks featuring myself and Shaw Independence goalkeeper coach Nathan Walzer. We got a lot of great training clips for you guys today, so without further ado, let's dive straight into it.
Cool, Brandon. Thank you for the introduction. Excited about this session. This is a session that we did this past week as we prepare for our last regular season match against NCFC. Based on NCFC's play, we see a lot of balls from wide areas, a lot of balls that are crossed in that we see shot from the gold zone. And so whether they're headers from central areas, rebounds that come out and are volleyed back in, shooting situations from cutbacks and early crosses. So in this session, we started work breaking down those movements, getting adjusted for how we transition and travel across the goal and getting set in those moments. So I will pull it up and we'll start to look and break down some of the footage that we have.
I think that's one important thing for a lot of the young goalkeeper coaches to kind of pay attention to is what you said there in terms of, we're playing in CFC on Saturday, and throughout the week we prepare for what they're going to bring to the table in terms of early crosses or different aspects of the game that we might see on a consistent basis. Maybe one of their forwards has a certain type of shooting rhythm, or they do certain things on a consistent basis, like preparing for those things. I think that's something that's key, especially at the professional level, and something that young goalkeeper coaches, even at the youth or the collegiate level, can start to do on a consistent basis to better prepare their goalkeepers.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And for me as a coach, it's always important to prepare the goalkeeper for the actions that they're going to see, just like you've said. And so if we're not trying to replicate the style of play from certain teams, we're not really preparing the goalkeeper. And it changes with every team. Like if we were going to play Red Bull, we might be focusing on a lot more vertical play and balls coming from central areas. And when you see NCFC and the way that their team's built, they're a heavily possession-oriented team, and they get the ball into those wide areas. And they're going to use Manny Perez to serve those early balls in behind that you're going to see quite a bit, and you're going to have strikers in the box that are going to find themselves in central areas. So I think, like you said, going back to it, it's really important for me that I'm able to show you situations that you're going to see, and in our activation phases, that we're starting to replicate quick decisions and just little movements that get our mind working. And so kind of building into this session today, we started off, and for me, it's really important at this point in the season where we're starting to get into the playoffs, the late runs. We have to dial the impact of the sessions down. And for me, as we start these sessions later on in the season, we're adding little things like this, and we'll see in the beginning where we're a little bit of reaction stuff with some tennis balls, and then our handling starts to add a neurological component to it where we're calling out colors and movements where it's not completely just beating you up and having you fly around. As the season's progressed, and this has been a weird one this year, how have you felt personally?
In terms of what?
In terms of your body. And so as the season's gone on, we've kind of taken sessions and we've tailored them back a little bit for you. But how is this season in particular, taking a toll on you?
I think it's, like you said, it's different just because our season is so compact. We're playing a lot more games in a short amount of time. For me, I think it's been a little less impact on my body simply because training is where we get most of our work, and that's where we take a act physically, where we in training doing a lot of the diving and things like that, versus being in games where we see actions a lot less consistently. And so I think the big thing for me has been trying to stay sharp in those fewer training sessions, right? We play a Saturday, Wednesday, and we may train, Monday, Tuesday. After a game, they're not heavy where you can get a lot of work done. And so really on maybe even making those Tuesday, Thursday sessions a little bit more aggressive in terms of getting some of the work done that we may need to get done, because you don't have as many training sessions throughout the week. You have very few weeks where you have 4 training sessions where you can tailor each day to certain things. And so just being able to really focus each session and get a little bit more work done than usual on certain days, but maintaining the sharpness.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And it's as you say, for goalkeeping, game day is maybe one of the physically less taxing days of the week, where it's a little bit more mentally straining. But as the week goes on, you start to see it. So it's good. You've adapted really well to this season. But we'll get into this session. Just starting out, we have this little exercise here where Austin and I are tossing tennis balls at you. And we're doing it from a set position, where I like this exercise because it starts out really low impact. We're just getting the hands going. We're getting the mind thinking. We're not trying to beat you up. And with it being said, it's getting the mind and the eyes turning and finding the ball. And that's a really important task for me, is when I look at the end goal, I see a ball, an early service crossed in, maybe there's a rebound and there's a volley. So now as the ball comes in, you have to turn your eyes, turn your head, find the focus of attention to the next target and make your save. And so this is a way for me to just really easily put us into the session where my eyes are changing directions. I'm having to find the next target. I'm having to use different handling skills to catch the tennis balls in a low impact way. So for me, I really like the way in this that it's just a simple focus from you. And it's something that we don't do very often by any means, but it's nice, comfortable set position. Balls are high, balls are low, reacting, turning the head onto the next one. And there's a ton of focus in there. There's not much aside from that. It's just a very simple exercise that kind of gets the mind going. So for me, I thought you did a great job in it. How does it feel? Go
It's
on.
it's a simple exercise, but it's one of those things like you talked about, like learning or seeing and getting your eyes ready to track the ball, right? And obviously a soccer ball is a lot bigger than a tennis ball. And so really the focus one is it's turning your brain on for a session, right? Getting ready for a session. Oftentimes anyone from a professional down to a youth goalkeeper may not come into a session mentally in the right state to start, catching balls and train at a high level. So little things like this get your mind going, get you focused, but also it's tracking the ball, it's finding the ball. It's like you said, getting your head around and getting your eye moving from one target to the next target in a quick manner and speeding up the play. So it's like these things, it seems simple, but it may be simple to catch a tennis ball, but is it simple to catch a tennis ball and then track and move your eyes, move your head, and find the next one? And then those are the little things that translate over into stepping onto a goal and what we're going to work on and what we're going to talk about later in this session with a lot of these reaction saves.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it progresses into the next thing that we did, where it's now just taking the mental part of it and the focus that we just had, and we're adding a little bit of movement into it now. And so now it's to our handling phase, where we add some movement, some handling. And in this particular day, it's adding a neural activation into it. And the neural activation is a simple calling the caller out to the caller back in to receive it. And again, it's just turning the mind on, making sure that you're ready for each set, each ball. And I like put the cones where they are for a certain reason, and we could put them in different areas. But for this, there's some of the movements that you may see in a match. So you may go out to the yellow cone and then the ball squared across the center and it's dropping in. It may be going out to the blue cone where I've taken a step out and I need to make a recovery step, get back to my line, create as much depth as possible, and then to receive the volley into hands. And so it applies a lot of the game-specific movements while still dealing with the handling phase.
This for me, I was just having this conversation last night with a goalkeeper. This for me is also about having pictures in your head and understanding where things are and knowing the field, right? Because that translates over to or we talk about crossing situations, we talk about cutbacks, we talk about reactions, things like that. Like when you're in those moments, that quick glance to see what's over your shoulder, what's in the middle of the 18, what picture is there that you're going to have to react to, right? Obviously, you have to focus on the ball that's out wide and that ball gets crossed in. Now you know what picture you're looking at. You know what spot you need to get to. You know where the striker is most likely going to be. You know where your defenders are, right? And so that starts here, and knowing that we've got 4 different color cones. You know what the picture is. Now it's being able to react quickly and get back to a spot, right? So that for me is the huge translation from this drill into the stepping into a goal and seeing live action.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how did that conversation come about kind of talking about pictures and moving through different ideas that you're seeing?
So we were working in a larger setting with the team, and we were actually talking about like playing out of the back, and so switching the ball from one side to the other. So you say your center back has the ball, you become an option, they play you the ball, right? And you're in front of your goal, you're 5-6 yards in front of your goal. Right, you're so focused on the ball, you don't know if you don't know what's behind you, what's on the other side, right? And you just turn and open up, and there's a forward right on you. Like obviously, that's a terrible situation. So even before that ball maybe gets to the center back, or even before the center back plays you the ball, just understanding the picture that's on the outside or on the other side of you, like taking that glance, knowing your center back's in this certain position, your outside back's maybe high and wide, or tucked in deeper. You've got a center mid in the middle of the field that you could potentially play. Like understanding pictures before you even get the ball to know what your options are and where you can play, where your first touch needs to go. So I think that's with playing with your feet, but those are the pictures that you need to have when you're organizing your team for whether it's taking a cross, whether you're higher up the field and organizing to neutralize the counterattack. Like those are the pictures that you have to have throughout the game.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. And the way you talked, that the words that were coming into my brain were, it was like a spatial awareness, and it was just having that awareness to always know where you are in every single exercise. And there's a little pole behind you in this exercise there. And for me, it was about starting in front of it, but not being on your line, and creating depth. So going out to a cone and dropping in to create depth. And so with this, it's always just knowing where you are. And it could be a 2 steps to the left, 2 steps to the right. When you're in your goal, you're using the marks of the goal and everything around you, but it's always knowing where you are. And so just creating that little environment to create that picture, to create that spatial awareness, is exactly what we were trying to do in this. And so it sounds like we got that out of it. And so the next thing, as we progress on in the session, was starting to now see some situations where we were dealing with balls. And the first progression in this, and we went through 3 progressions in this. And the first one was about getting on the ground. And it's the first time that we've gotten on the ground on the day. So it's always nice, simple technique, but it's about the efficiency of our footwork when we're dealing with these balls. And when we're dealing with these balls, Austin's serving from the wide area on an angle to try to replicate the starting position that you would see from an early service or a ball played from the wide area. If I put Austin a little bit closer to the end line, it would be more of a cutback situation where your footwork changes quite a bit. So in this, you're starting from an angle, and then you're going to drop in to receive a low ball. And some of the big things for me on this are, even going back to where we talked about the tennis balls, it's what's our footwork? Is it a drop in as he comes across? How efficient are we moving? And then how efficiently are we turning our head to find the ball, reading the intention of the shooter, and then getting down with just good technique on our low balls for the day. So as we start to play it, we'll see here really simple movements. And I say simple, and I don't want to take away from the importance of them because they're all game-like. And so he turns, find the next ball, down for the low ball. And on these sets, it's late season, so we're only doing sets of 3. And all of it's all muscle memory for you, but it's replicating the situations where we're getting in, coming across, finding the ball, changing levels, getting down, and just being able to recreate situations.
Right. I think it's like you say, it's muscle memory, but it's muscle memory until it isn't muscle memory, right? And so it's like if we're not doing these things on a consistent basis, like it makes it harder to do the same things in games, right? So this looks simple here, but we do this on a consistent basis so that it's simple in a game,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you're not doing that, a lot of times goalkeepers tend to get bored or like think that, professionals aren't doing these basic things, but these are the things that we do on a consistent basis, because these are a lot of the movements, a lot of the actions, a lot of the balls that we see on a consistent basis. And if we're not handling them cleanly day in and day out, then it makes it harder to do that at a high level once, the lights are on and you're performing in front of fans and against an opponent that is trying to score on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, in a lot of these exercises, simplicity is key. And I would say probably in even my coaching pathway, it's changed. And in the past, maybe it was doing something a little bit crazier where the movements added extra. You're adding too many different things. Maybe you're jumping over something to get across and to do it. And maybe there's a different application for that. And there's always an application for everything. But I think for this, it's just the simplicity of it. And it's receiving a ball where now I'm turning, dropping in, and I'm getting prepared to see that low ball. Because ultimately, those are the actions that we see in a game. We want to try to replicate it with just the movement and to create that muscle memory, like as you spoke about. So for me, we're trying to keep it nice and simple. Make sure that you get the things out. And I think it's something that's really important for me is the simple little footwork in here as you come across. And it's a good set position. As you turn, there's small adjustments. And there's a time for a goalkeeper to get across, move fast, and get down low and really explode for things. And one of my favorite things about the way you move in exercises like this is how efficiently you move. And so it's receiving the ball. And as you're catching it, you're finishing the action, but now you're taking small little steps. Your head's turned before you've even released the ball, before your feet have started to correct, and you're already finding the ball, and you're watching the strikers. It's a defined ball, but you're watching to see what the striker's intentions are. And as I step into the ball, your feet come across, you stay balanced, you stay set, and then you're able to receive it and deal with the shot that comes. I think a lot of goalkeepers, we are in a rush to do a lot of things. And so we catch it, we sprint across, and we're almost diving across the goal before the shots even come off the striker's foot. And when you get to the higher levels, they're too good. They're going to put it back against the grain against you, and it'll make it for a really easy save. But in these moments for me is something that is a strong suit of yours, and the way that you stay balanced through every single one of these sets.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that, because I know you probably don't have the video for this, but later in this session when we went in with the team, this exact situation happened, and we talk about spatial awareness, and I think there's no better example than like a cutback ball similar to this, where it's like in milliseconds where you have to make the decisions. You have to understand where your defenders are, what windows there are for a striker to shoot in. And so later in this session, we're playing, I believe it was a small sided, and there was a cutback ball, and Val stepped in, came onto it, and it's essentially that same exact movement where I'm moving from my left post, have to move across the goal, but then realizing what the shooting window is for the player who's on his left foot coming back across the 18, and not committing myself all the way across the goal because the shot ended up going back to my near post, right? So understanding that my movement can't be a rush across the goal because I'm anticipating a finished far post. And I also don't have to do that because I understand where my defenders are. I understand where that striking window is, and I'm able to stay balanced and then adjust back if need be. So a lot of times, like especially young goalkeepers, in a drill like this, like you said, they lose their balance, and their focus is, all right, the first ball's coming in, and then I got to turn and get down low real quick. And so they're already committing to going down low before they've even seen the ball struck, right? And then that tends to lead into bad habits, which translate over into the goal, and you're not able to make the saves that sometimes can be a bit easier than you think.
No, that's absolutely spot on. And then as we move on in this session, now it was about starting to see balls off the deck on a service. So we're just striking balls into hand. And so that's an added progression that we've started to build in. And the second piece of it was, as he's turned, it was a volley from me central. And so the volley is obviously a slightly different service than what we've seen. It's not the low ball as we turn and come across, but now it's a mid-height ball. Now it's a ball that it could be either a heading situation that comes from somewhere. It could be a volleyed situation. It may be a situation where the early service comes in. Our center back gets in that area and is able to clear the first one, but unfortunately clears it to the middle of on the edges of the 18. And so now we're going to see the second ball that comes in as a volley. And again, as we're preparing for NCFC, these are the situations that we're going to see. These are the balls that, and I have some clips later on from some of our matches from NCFC where balls crossed in early, defender clears it, but he hits it right into that gold zone area between the six, the box of the six, and between the 18 and the six. And now it's how do we adjust to it, and we drop in. And so again, we're not in the goal yet, so we're starting to see the movements. And we see the service from Austin coming into hands, nice and clean, really good focus on our set position and reading the flight of the ball. But then as you come across, it's a quick adjustment to come across. And some of these services, they're a little bit late, a little bit central, but it's more about how quickly he turns, how quickly he's balanced as, and I say he, I mean you, how you turn and you come across the goal. And it's a very similar situation than we just saw, but it's how you come across and how you control yourself to know what the next one's coming. And with this angle here, you can see that first service from this opposite side is starting to stretch you a little bit more. It's starting to move you around a little bit more. And it's how we turn and how we adjust and how we see and frame. And the second piece of it is your body shape as you come across. You're turning as you get set here, shoulders are forward, hips are back. And where you can see where your first step is here, it's out in front of you or it's out to your side. And the way your shoulders and your hips are, it allows you to come across the goal evenly. Where I think at times, as we drop in on that recovery step, we don't necessarily stay balanced, centered, or a little bit forwards. It's really easy as you recover in for your body weight to be backwards. And when we're backwards, that's where we turn and we may be diving backwards into our goal. And so again, it starts with the footwork, how efficiently you get across, you get planted, you get squared. Then it's where your hips, where your shoulders, and how well you stay even diving across the goal. And so those are all little technical points, and there's a ton of them for just the way that you move in these situations. But in this session, for me, they were all done really well.
Yeah, I think, and to go along with that, it's like, see the mannequins, that's the window that we're working in, right? So it's similar to when you're in goal and you turn for a cutback ball. Like one center back's going to be one place, the other center back's going to be another place. You've got to find your window where you're going to get set and react to that. Could there be times where a ball gets hit outside that mannequin or outside your defender? Yeah, but this is that window that you're getting set in, and then we react from there as opposed to just guessing on a lot of things.
Yeah, I think I like the way that you spoke about the windows, and that's a really good point. And we're going to see it later on in the session where we have mannequins set up in certain areas where it talks about the first zone, the second zone, and the third zone as we see crossed balls coming in. And the window that you're talking about here is that second zone or that central zone as you dropped in. And like you said, our ball is going to go outside of that for sure. But a lot of the situations that we see happen within this window for this particular team. And so that's a really important point. And again, your starting position where you were, if it was a full-size goal, there'd probably be another 2 feet in front of you where the blue pole is. And so the service that we're seeing is a bit further out. So now we're trying to replicate an accurate starting position and then an accurate final action. And so I like that point about the windows in there. It's great.
I remember I was talking to, this was a few years ago, but an MLS goalkeeper coach, and his big thing was, goalkeeping. A large majority of goalkeeping is within a 4-yard area. Like his thing was 3-yard area, but I've extended it to a larger 4-yard area. But he said the 3-yard area, right, from it's like a yard and a half, 2 yards to your right, yard and a half, 2 yards to your left, right? That's the area that a large majority of goalkeeping happens in. Right? There's not, if you he gave some statistics, and he had broken it down throughout the season with his goalkeepers that he had worked with. But he looked at how many balls ended up in, bottom corner, top corner, versus how many goals went in that 3 yard area. And I think goalkeepers would be surprised how many strikes happen within that 3, or whatever angle you're on, whether it's a shot coming from your right side, shot coming from your left side, that 1.5 to 2 yards to your right or your left, that's where a lot of strikes go in. And so that's why I feel like it's so important to really train that area right there, as opposed to a lot of, you see a lot of stuff on social media or videos on YouTube about goalkeepers flying all over the place and making top corner saves and things like that. And that's great, but a large majority of goalkeeping doesn't happen there. And so if you can really perfect that area in and around you, where everything's clean, you're balanced, you're making the saves that you to make, that's where a good goalkeeper is born out of, right? And you can, of course, you need to work on extending to the bottom corner because those things happen, but the majority of goalkeeping doesn't happen off curl strikes into the side netting. And so that's why for me, it's most important for me to be really solid in these areas right here.
No, I think the 4 yards, I like that distance and I like that point. And from central areas, 4 yards may not feel like a lot, but if you're solid in those areas, you're going to make a lot of saves. And especially on angles, 4 yards, that may be your entire goal on an angle. That
Right.
should be a lot of the times the entire goal that you have to cover if your techniques is clean. So 4 yards and being solid in that bubble is the difference between probably a great and an excellent goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And so as we progress on past that, the last phase of it was now starting to see some reaction stuff where we're moving and we're guessing and we're diving. And it's now seeing, I think it's a volley service from the outside, or it might be a half volley. But as he turns, it's a quick ball, it's tossed to the side. And it's not defined in this action. This is completely random. And so now it's 6 yards in. Is it a header? Is it a deflection? Is it a ball that gets redirected onto the goal? And so now we have to be good in that area. And it's all about turning and finding the ball. Again, it goes back to the fundamental points that we're consistently building on throughout this session. And now, again, we start to, what we see a lot of the times, I think, from goalkeepers, as you get in this situation here, where this is a moment in the game where you have to create depth. And it's probably a ball coming in where it's crossed. And so now we're dropping back to our line. We get back to our line. We get in this moment where we are right here. We're on our line. Ball's coming in. And now we have to be able to react and make that save. And a lot of the times, if your positioning's right and you start to find the ball line of where the ball travels to, within that 4 yards, if you can react and make those saves, that's going to be the difference between, those are match-winning saves right there. And what we anticipate is you could potentially see one of these saves from this weekend. And I think I'll show it later on. This is an area where probably my favorite save of the season came from for you. Coming across, creating depth, getting back to your line, and finding a ball that's headed from 5 yards away. So it's really important that we get balanced, we stay forward, and we're able to then push off and extend for those balls.
Yeah, I love doing this drill with youth goalkeepers because as a server, it's very easy for them off balance and get them guessing. It's a simple look one way and toss the ball the other way. And so that's why, like, I hammer in balance, and not so much reacting to the striker, but reacting to where the ball goes. Because a lot, especially when you get to the higher levels, you talked about it, like they can easily, look one way, and a no-look strike to the far post is simple, right? Or catching you off guard and putting one back near post. And so finding your balance and just reacting in that small area that looks large, but when you actually like think about it and you actually push off and realize like how small that area is, like you can cover a lot more than you think.
Yeah. And you said it, as long as your feet are moving well and you're balanced and you're traveling with the ball, you can cover more ground. And I think goalkeepers, for me, try to They try to rely on just flying and making acrobatic saves when it really isn't necessary a lot of the time. We try to put ourselves in bad positions, and then we would try to recover by making a remarkable save. Where if you just get in the right position, a lot of the time you can make it easy where you have those camera saves, and every now and then, yeah, camera save, we get up, and maybe it's easier to secure the ball by just laying out in the air. And that's definitely a thing. But at the same time, we try to rely on these camera saves to make big saves, but a lot of the time it's because we're not in the right spots. And if we were in the right spots, those don't need to happen. And as a goalkeeper in your development, um, that's something that I've noticed since I've always worked with you. You are a huge proponent of getting in the right spot, getting there quickly, and then being ready for the next save. And what I believe is one of your super strengths is your shot stopping ability, and I think you know that. And so as you get in, you just get set, you find the right spot, and you make all the saves within your bubble. But then you have the ability athletically to make those huge saves. But I wouldn't say you rely on them. It's not something we see a lot, and we don't see that much in games. I mean, I think in a game, maybe you should have to make one or two big saves a game. If it's really tight and you're getting after it, 3 or 4, you shouldn't have to make massive saves like that in a game. A lot of them are routine. A lot of them are within your 4 yard window. And I love that distance and that because I keep coming back to it now. But those are the saves that I see that you making most often. And as we translate even into this next phase, it's now I wouldn't say it's totally game realistic, but it's the situation. It's not a traveling ball. What we're starting to see balls that are served from angles that we're going to see in a match. And then from there, it's dropping into the specific zone in the goal and seeing a much harder strike coming across. And so now we're starting to see actions where we have to make saves within our bubble, within our goal, that we're hopefully going to see within the match. And so there, for me, it's doing a good job to come across and find your ball line. And then every time we have a good starting position, dealing with the first ball, securing it, but then coming across, finding the ball line and traveling. And this is something that you said earlier, and I'd like to get what your philosophy is on it. A lot of the times in this, goalkeepers, I've heard two trains of thought. One is they're going to drop all the way in, find their ball line, have to get there to react. Some goalkeepers are going to stay a little bit more towards their near post and close their near post out, trust them to make that save in that half of the goal, and then it's almost a bonus save if we get out to the far post or in that third zone. You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of what we talked about earlier. It's like well, for me, I have to, in order for me to be most effective, I have to have my feet set in the ground, right? I won't say like, I mean, I would consider myself athletic, but I don't think I'm the most explosive goalkeeper in terms of, being able to fly all over the goal. I think I'm most effective when my feet are set in the ground and I can react because I feel like I have good reactions. So like for this instance, you'll see a lot where I'm not necessarily set in front of you or even, like a half a yard in line with you. But right when you're about to strike, I have to get down and then I can react, as opposed to me continuing to work across the goal. Like this, for me, if I continue to work across the goal here, I'm playing the drill. And I don't want to play the drill because I'm not going to do that in a game, right? If I'm set for a strike where Austin is in a game and then the ball gets played back to where you are in a game, I'm not going to keep moving across the goal in anticipation of a shot far post, because we've seen it this year where I've been scored on where that ball has gone back near post, right? So it's about getting around, getting my feet set. And even if I don't get all the way across to where I need to be, where I feel like is the best positioning for this strike right here, straight on, I'd rather have my feet in the ground and be able to push and explode towards a strike wherever it goes, as opposed to me hoping that that shot goes far post and I'm exploding far post already. Right. So it's trusting my footwork to know I can stay balanced, get across and get far enough across to where I'll be able to explode and push far post to cover a majority of the far post, but also be able to react back near post.
Yeah, and I paused it in this moment here in this, and it was right after you caught this ball from Austin, and it applies, I think, entirely into what you were just saying. As you're coming across, as I'm about to hit it, and it's hard to see when I'm doing slow motion there, but there's a hitch in the way you travel, and not in a bad way. It's a pause. And as you come across, right before I hit it and you make this save, you pause a little bit. And I think you pause slightly because you want to see where the ball's traveling so you can react. You've gotten to a good spot. Shooter's about to shoot, so it's about getting your feet into the ground, getting set so that you can play. But it's also a pause to where if the ball goes back the opposite direction, you're able to change directions and push off. And it's extremely subtle. And for me, it's kind of right there as you start to take off. And as I notice it, I like it because it's right there. You pause, you're still coming across, but you're ready to make that save. And then that save is within your bubble, bottom hand, you get it up, push it over the bar, and it's a great save. And it's a tough one. In this second service, ball comes a little bit early, and as I'm striking it, again, you're still coming across. I probably serve it a bit early in this one, but that's all right. And in that, you don't pause your feet because you're dropping in, you turned your head, you've identified where the ball's coming from, and you see me starting to strike. And you know that at that point, in that moment of time, you have to go. And you don't happen to make this save, but you made plenty of other saves like this in this exercise.
Yeah, and I mean this one for me, like this one doesn't upset me because, like again, we talk about playing the drill versus doing things that are game realistic, and like I'm not going if I know as a goalkeeper if I'm going to turn and react to a ball, I'm not going to. I want my momentum to be more so forward as opposed to going to my right side. Like on that one, I just wasn't able to explode quite enough. Like if that happens in a game, I can't feel terrible about letting that in because I know that if this ball doesn't go to my right side, if this ball goes back to my left side, I still have a great chance of making the save. Whereas if I turn and just push straight or automatically to my right side and dive there, I might make that save. But in a game now, I'm building a habit of turning and just diving, and that's not something that I want to do as a goalkeeper.
No. And at the level that you're playing at, strikers are too good. And as they watch you play, they'll notice that. They'll say, keeper's going to drop in and he's just going to lay out. He's not really going to have attention. And I mean, you see Dane every single day in training, and he's one of the best strikers the league's seen. And as he drops in, as he knows you're going to drop in, he's going to say thank you and just play back into your near post. And it's a tap in. And so I think even in this next one here, I think it's almost identical situation where you get it. I hit it pretty early. You're able to get across, get that arm out, and make a great save. And for me, this is almost in that getting close to that bonus area where you've covered zone 1 and zone 2. This ball's coming across almost into zone 3, and you're able to make that save and push off. And it's an excellent save there. And it's the same exact situation from before, except you just make the save and you're able to deal with it. So excellent. Terrible service.
Right. That's another thing for young goalkeepers I see a lot is like that first goal will go in and now they're really down on themselves. They're really upset about that first goal going in. And I mean, obviously I'm 30 years old. I've been doing this for 9 years professionally. Like I have a bit more, in the bank in terms of saves, but like for me, I know I've made that save before. I know I can make that save. I just wasn't right there. I just wasn't able to make that one. Right. So, but now it's to focus on the next rep and continue doing the things that I know I can do and do well in order to continue to build the habits, right? Because the habits start to become that last save as opposed to the one that went in.
Yeah. And I think, and we've talked about it over and over again, and in training, it's not getting down. Yeah, we're going to let goals in. We're going to deal with reps where we let it. And just to get on with the next one, I work with youth goalkeepers all the time. And one of the biggest things I notice about their mentality is we let in a goal that we think we should save. And it's about not getting down on ourselves and just getting on to the next rep. And even in training, there's too many young goalkeepers that let in goals and they just can't get over it. And it's tough because you want to say, get on with it. It's all right. We know where we need to make the corrections and let's improve it on the next rep. And sometimes they just can't get over it and it's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
So in this last phase of this with these situations, now we're starting to see the ball that it's an early service. Maybe it comes back out to that middle area. And now it's a low ball back to the same side or a ball played back to the same side. And these are tough ones. And we've seen this a lot this year where we start to drop in and then we're playing a ball back into the same side. So we have to find the ball line as the ball travels, as the shooter's about to travel it or about to strike it, and then be able to stay low, change directions, and push off back to the other way. And these are, again, situations that we're going to see with NCFC. They're moments that are difficult for a goalkeeper because now we're turning, we're changing, and we're also dealing with the shot through bodies. So we have defenders in the way that could potentially deflect the ball, could push it out of the way, could move it the other way. And so now we're reacting to it. And in these moments, this is something for me that with your footwork and the way that you operate and do things, it's turning, dropping, ball came out, and you're set and you're ready to make those saves. And again, it's important for me that you see these moments, your body feels these moments during the week so that you have the confidence and the ability to do it on the weekend.
Yeah, and this goes back to what we did in the beginning with the tennis balls. Right now, we're tracking the ball coming through a mannequin. Right, it's extremely underrated how difficult that is. Once that ball, you see a strike clean, and then all of a sudden it comes by a body, right? And so now you have to track it again, find it again in a split second in order to hold things cleanly or even just make a save. And so that starts with quick tennis ball tosses, something small, but it turns your eyes on, it turns your mind on to tracking the ball. And so that I think that's a perfect example.
No, that's great. And I think that's always the idea behind building sessions and starting with the final picture and kind of working our way backwards. And for me, it's always working my way backwards and figuring out the moments that I want to see at the end. And now figuring out what exercises can I put into the session plan to now tailor it towards how we see the final actions, whether it's a reaction or a cutback or whatever the scenario is. And like you said, starting with tennis balls, starting with seeing balls, then getting into the central zones, and then our final goal actions. And now I'm going to let this roll a little bit, but there's some actions from NCFC versus the Red Bull. And again, it's a ball crossed into the central area. And this one doesn't necessarily come off as a shot, but it may be a ball that comes here and Lomas has a strike that he's about to volley on goal from 6 yards out. And this is a moment. So this is an action that you would see in the NCFC game. And so a lot of their play that we'll start to see here is all from wide areas. Ball comes across, and this may be that early cross, or the cross behind the back line or in front, and now strikers coming right into that goal zone. And the keeper has to make a save, react, turn, and find the ball. And it's an excellent save from the keeper here. And like I said, these are the actions that I'm looking at as I'm designing this session. All right, that's what he may see in a match. And with NCFC, it's a lot of balls played in. Gold zone, keeper has to turn and make a big save. And so now this is, again, from a game that we played early on. Ball comes across here, and it's a little bit further past the middle zone, but as Haji Berry takes a touch back into the middle, you have to change your footwork, turn, and get back into that opposite direction. Again, this is another situation that didn't necessarily come off earlier, but we talked about it, where the ball's coming in, our defender gets into that spot and he goes to clear it, but it comes into a central zone. And if Junior doesn't do a great job to get to that ball and be in the right spot, this is a shooting situation that can occur. And so we also see where the top of the box there is, a player comes there, ball could come out there, and we have to deal with that first time strike. And for me, you even see in a lot of these moments, you can see your footwork ready for the early cross. Then in this moment here is almost what I wanted to get out of the sessions on the day. And I get Junior goes to clear this, but we stay here and watch how you go to create depth before Nas potentially has an opportunity to shoot it. So it's there. You're going to create depth there to get back to your line a little bit to give you time to react and deal with that.
Right. I think that last one is the exact picture from last year, where we had pretty much that similar situation where the ball got crossed in and the shot ended up going back to my near post. And finding those windows and then being set and being able to go left or right, as opposed to turning and your momentum's going to your right. Now you're leaning to your right and you have no opportunity to get back to your left.
Exactly. And this is another really good example of some of the stuff we wanted to see, and that footwork that you're ready to get back to your near post if you need. And it's this cutback ball. It's this early service. It's this ball from a wide area into the penalty area, but specifically almost between the sixes, where we're going to see balls come across. And he doesn't get a clean strike on it, but you're able to drop into a spot where you found your ball line. You're confident about getting back to your near post if you need, but I think you have the ability there to push off and really get back to your far post. And the last one here is probably arguably one of my favorite saves of the season. It's a ball that gets played across into that central zone from a wide area, similar to what we may see this week. And it's nearly a perfect situation for me. In this wide area here, you're anticipating where the early service is going to be. You're ready for the runners that are in the middle. And as you drop in, you drop across the goal. You work to create as much depth as possible back to your line. And then as he hits it, your feet are set. And it's a massive save for us at 1-1 in the 44th minute. That for me is the same situations that we may see. And again, probably one of my favorite saves of the year.
Yeah, I just think that for me, the big thing there is just turning, one, tracking the ball, but two, while you're moving across the goal, understanding when that strike's about to come, right? You can push your feet as much as you want to get across the goal because obviously you have a large goal to cover. But once that ball's about to be headed, like we have to get set and be able to react. Too often you see it even at the highest levels, like that ball gets played across and goalkeepers are just they're moving as quickly as they can to their right to get across, and they just start leaning to their right, falling down to their right in hopes that header goes to the right side. And granted, if they make the save, the commentator is going to say that's an amazing save. But at the same time, if that ball goes back across, they're dead in the water. So it's just, for me, and the type of goalkeeper I am, it's just about that balance and pushing my feet to move as fast as I can, but at the same time getting set when I need to get set and being able to react.
Yeah, for sure. And again, that's the best thing about that save is it's not going with the momentum that you were going. It's back across the other way. And so it goes into that specific footwork that we've talked about. So that's fantastic. I hope that this session gives you the confidence and the ability for us to be ready for this weekend. And I think everything that we saw in the clips and the actions and everything, we started to see a little bit in the session and how it came out. So that's the session for me, and that's all I got.
Well, another great session, a lot of great analysis. I appreciate you putting that together for us, and I know the viewers will appreciate it as well. So, Coach Nate, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. So our viewers of Training Ground Talks, we appreciate you guys watching, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Take it easy.